Did you know that we are living in the times described in ancient prophecies? Something unbelievable was revealed by Saint Michael the Archangel in the light of Mary, and what is about to happen could change everything we know. This urgent message carries a truth that the world needs to hear now, but that few are prepared to accept. If you ignore this, you may be missing the chance to understand what is really behind the current chaos, and imagine a scenario in which conflicts spread without control, wars, divisions, crises. But what if all this is just the tip of a spiritual iceberg? Today you will discover something surprising, something that could be the watershed between understanding what is happening or continuing in the dark. Saint Michael the Archangel revealed deep and disturbing secrets about the future, and these words, "A clear destiny," you need to hear them now. Why you need to watch until the end? Because this message goes far beyond a simple alert. It brings answers that you may not even know you were looking for. The revelation is powerful, but its impact will only be complete if you understand every detail. Skip any part and risk missing the key point to prepare. While the world dives increasingly in the chaos, there is a special call for those who are attentive. San Miguel Escol at this moment to tell you what you need to know so as not to be taken by surprise. These questions will be answered here, but only if you stay until the end. The energy of this revelation is overwhelming, and it's no wonder we are talking about a spiritual battle of invisible forces that shape the events we see every day in the news. You feel like something big is coming, you are not alone. This video is not just about a celestial, it's about you, about your life, your choices, and the role you can play in a decisive moment in history. Do not think that this is just something distant or symbolic. The words of Saint Michael the Archangel carry real, practical, and urgent guidance for you and your family. So the question is, will you watch until the end? The message has been sent to you now. It's up to you to decide whether to listen or continue following without knowing what's coming. But one thing is certain, if you miss it, you will be missing something that could make all the difference. This is the moment. Stay with me because the revelations start now, and they won't wait for anyone. Have you ever stopped to think about why such impactful messages reach us in moments of extreme turbulence? The prophecy of Saint Michael the Archangel, the light of Mary, is not a coincidence. In fact, it carries a greater purpose, an alert that transcends time and space. But who is the light of Mary? Because her revelations are so often debated and even contested, and above all, what does this mean for you? The light of Mary is a mystic known for her deeply intense spiritual experiences. For years, she has received messages from holy angels and even from Christ himself. But what makes this prophecy different is the urgency of the tone and the messenger, Saint Michael the Archangel, one of the most powerful leaders of the heavenly hosts. He is known as the defender of the faith, the protector of the children of God in the battle against the forces of darkness. In this specific message, Saint Miguel addresses not only the light of Mary, but all of humanity. He does not speak with metaphors or soften his speech. He warns us about a reality that is already at our door, a conflict that grows uncontrollably, threatening peace on all spiritual, emotional, and physical levels. The prophesies that the light of Maria receives have a pattern. Of course, they arrive at crucial moments when there's something important about to happen. Many wonder if they are warnings or opportunities to change the course of events. But there is an undeniable detail: they are becoming more frequent. And what do they announce? It has been unfolding before our eyes. Why you should pay attention now, because these messages are more than warnings, they are guides. They help us understand what is happening in the world from a perspective that goes beyond the obvious. The connection between recent events and the words of Saint Michael is so clear that to ignore it would be to close your eyes to what is to come. Think about recent global events, conflicts, economic crises, extreme climate change. None of this happens by chance, and this is where Saint Michael's message comes in. He warns us that these signs are not isolated, they are part of a bigger plan, a scenario where good and evil are facing each other in ways we have never seen before. But there is one crucial detail you need to understand: this battle is not just global, it happens within each of us. As we look at the world outside, San Miguel reminds us that the true field of the battle is in our hearts, in our decisions, and in how we choose to act in the face of adversity. What is at stake? Your inner peace, your life purpose, and most importantly, your preparation for what is to come. This message was not sent to scare, but to awaken. This is what makes this moment so important. If you are listening now, it means you have been called to be aware, to be ready. From here, we will delve into the words of Saint Michael and the signs he points out to us. But first, take a pause and reflect on how everything happening around you can be connected in ways you never imagined. And get ready, because the message gets even deeper as we delve into the words of Saint Michael. It is impossible to ignore the backdrop against which his message unfolds. The global scenario seems to crumble before our eyes: devastating wars, social divisions, profound natural disasters on alarming scales, and a feeling that something is dangerously out of control. All of this is not just a coincidence. These are clear signs that Saint Michael's prophecy connects directly to the reality we live in. Think about the speed at which conflicts intensify. Regions that used to live in relative stability now face unexpected crises. In many places, dialogue has given way to hatred, and chaos seems inevitable. The words of Saint Michael, when he mentions that the conflict continues without control, are frighteningly accurate. The war he announces is not just physical, it's a war of values, of purpose, of truths that are being distorted. But that's not all. Look at natural phenomena, the increase in earthquakes, hurricanes, and floods. Events that were once rare are now becoming almost routine. Are these events trying to tell us something? According to the message of Saint Michael, they are reflections of a humanity that has lost balance with the divine and with itself. What makes this message even more impactful is that it not only describes global problems, it calls us to look within. Because while the world outside seems to fall apart, within each of us there is a battle being fought. Saint Michael warns us that the true dangers begin in the human heart, in selfishness, in indifference, in pride that prevents us from seeing others, and, consequently, from seeing the truth. The divisions don't stop there. Think of the way technology and social networks have shaped our lives. What should be a tool to unite has turned into a battlefield where every opinion becomes a weapon and every disagreement a war. San Miguel reminds us that this is not accidental. It is part of a bigger picture, a plan to distract and weaken us. There is something even deeper happening. It is not just wars or disasters, but a spiritual conflict that is reaching a critical point, and that is what the prophecy seeks to reveal to us. What we are seeing are just reflections of something much bigger, a battle between good and evil that is being fought at levels that we cannot fully understand. But hope remains. Saint Michael makes it clear that even in the face of such a turbulent scenario, humanity still has a choice. He invites us to reflect. Are we contributing to destruction or seeking reconstruction? Are we living as spectators, or assuming our role in this grand narrative? This is the time when we need to stop and look at what is really happening. Every choice, every action, every thought matters. And as we move forward to understand more deeply the message of Saint Michael, one thing is certain: the time to act is running out. What will we do with this unique opportunity for change? We arrived at the central point of this revelation. The words of Saint Michael the Archangel are not just a distant echo, they carry an overwhelming weight. What was transmitted in the light of Mary has the power to shake the deepest certainties, and at the same time illuminate the paths that many ignore. This message is a warning, but also an opportunity. It is the kind of truth that we cannot afford to ignore. Children of the Most High, the moment has come. The whitewash spreads, and you remain asleep. My call is urgent, as the darkness advances quickly and relentlessly. These are some of the first words revealed by Saint Michael. He does not soften the tone, he does not offer false hope. What he brings is an uncomfortable clarity. We are on the brink of a spiritual and moral collapse, and each of us is being called to choose a side. The message is direct and reaches the heart of the crises we are experiencing today. Saint Michael alerts us that the incidents and divisions we witness are not only the result of human disputes, but rather manifestations of a spiritual battle that surpasses our understanding. He describes a scenario where the forces of darkness use confusion and fear to keep us away from the divine purpose you were created for. The light, but the darkness tries to dominate. Do not allow the winds of deception to divert you from the path. One of the most disturbing parts of the message is the warning about the expansion of the conflict. Saint Michael speaks of a growing lack of control, a series of events that connect in an almost invisible but lethal way. He mentions that the rulers, blinded by power, are leading the nations to the abyss, while the people, distracted by trivialities, lose the sense of urgency. You are being led like sheep to the slaughter, and few see. However, Saint Michael's message is not just about destruction, he also brings a promise, but it is a conditioned promise. He reminds us that although evil is expanding, the light can still prevail, but that depends on us. Every thought, every choice, every action counts. The sky is not silent. The Most High sends his messengers so that you wake up and get back on your path. Another powerful aspect of the message is the call to vigilance. Saint Michael warns that the greatest dangers do not just come from outside but from within. He talks about how humanity is being corrupted due to indifference, greed, and lack of empathy. You cannot win this battle with physical weapons, but with the weapons of the faith, of truth, and of union. These words are not just a report, but an invitation. Saint Michael does not speak only to warn, but to mobilize. He calls us to reflect on what we are doing to resist the advance of darkness. Are we acting as spectators or positioning ourselves as warriors of light? As we continue to explore this prophecy, it becomes clear that there is no room for neutrality. Saint Michael's message forces us to confront a truth, uncomfortable but liberating. We are at a crossroads, and the destiny of the world and our souls depends on the choices we make now. Now that we hear the words of Saint Michael, an inevitable question arises: what do they really mean? These messages are not just warnings about global events, but guides loaded with symbolism and wisdom. Each phrase projects a mirror to the chaos we experience, connecting the events we witness to a greater purpose. But understanding this message requires more than listening. It requires interpreting and acting. Saint Michael tells us about a growing conflict, something he describes as without control. This points to a situation that has already exceeded limits, a disorder that can no longer be contained by human hands alone. Looking at the world today, it is difficult not to associate this statement with the wars that spread unpredictably, the divisions that make dialogue impossible, and the fear that dominates hearts and minds. But Saint Michael makes it clear that this goes beyond physical events. It is a spiritual conflict. The chaos that Saint Michael mentions is not just a dramatic word, but a tangible reality. He warns us that evil cannot manifest itself only in major events, but also in small acts of selfishness, indifference, and lack of love. He describes a humanity that, in its race for power and pleasure, has moved away from fundamental values, and it is in this distancing that evil finds its strength. Chaos is not an external imposition. It is born within each one of us when we allow fear and pride to guide us. There is a phrase in his message that deserves special attention: "You were created for light, but darkness tries to dominate." Here, Saint Michael reminds us of our divine essence, of the potential we carry, but also of the danger we face by ignoring it. This inner calling, this resonates with the world where modern distractions, social media, rampant consumption, and ideological divisions keep us away from what truly matters. How can we recognize this distancing? Saint Michael talks about the loss of vigilance. He mentions how evil advances while we remain distracted, complacent. This means that the battle is not just in what we see in the news, but in what we choose to ignore. The winds of deceit he mentions are everywhere, distorted information, manipulated truths, and a constant desire to divide rather than unite. But there is a duality in his message. He speaks of destruction, but also of hope. The words, "The sky is not silent," remind us that even in the midst of chaos, there is a path of hope. Saint Michael tells us that there is a purpose behind every alert, every awakening. He doesn't just want to scare us. He wants us to see the opportunity for transformation that exists at this critical moment. What this means for you is a call to action, but not in the conventional sense. It's not about weapons or direct confrontations, but about resisting the darkness from the inside out. Saint Michael reminds us that the true battle begins in our hearts. He challenges us to abandon indifference, to seek the truth, and to live with courage and purpose, even in a world that constantly tries to lead us astray. This understanding is crucial because, as he warns, time is running out. There is an urgency in his words that cannot be ignored. He calls us to reflect. Are we prepared? Are we aware of the magnitude of what is happening around us? Or are we still stuck in trivialities? While the world changes before our eyes, the message of Saint Michael comes to life. When we look around us at the repercussions of the conflict he mentions, it is unfolding before our eyes. But what exactly does he mean by the conflict? It rages unchecked, and that is why it is so important to you now. This part of the prophecy is not just a warning about physical wars, but a map of the social, moral, and spiritual collapse that is underway. The signs are clear: devastating wars, natural disasters, economic crises. Everything seems to be interconnected by an invisible thread. But according to San Miguel, the real conflict is not the one we see in the headlines. It is behind the scenes, far from the eyes of the majority, but with consequences that reverberate in all aspects of human life. This invisible war is not just between nations, but between forces that seek domination of people's hearts and minds. The lack of control that Saint Michael mentions is evident in global leaders. He speaks of rulers blinded by power who, in search of control, sacrifice the most basic principles of compassion and justice. Look around. We see a growing polarization where leaders seem incapable of promoting unity. Instead, they fuel divisions by exploiting fear and insecurity to maintain power. But Saint Michael goes further. He points out that the lack of control is also spiritual. People are losing their connection with what is essential. He speaks of a distracted humanity, too busy with futility to realize what is really happening. Growing materialism, unbridled consumption, and dependence on technology keep us away from what matters. This is not a coincidence, it is part of a plan. He describes a plan that aims to keep us away from the light, and where this leaves us is in a state of extreme vulnerability. Saint Michael warns that while we are busy with superficial disputes, the forces of evil advance. He mentions that these forces are infiltrated at all levels of government, institutions, and even in the communities where we once found security. The lack of control he describes is not just global, it is personal. He challenges us to reflect on how our own actions contribute to this chaos. Despite the dark tone, there is a message of hope in the words of Saint Michael. He reminds us that we have the power to choose. We can choose to be part of the problem or part of the solution. We can choose to be awakened or remain asleep. The choice is ours. He makes it clear that chaos is not definitive but a stage. He mentions that those who awaken, who choose the light, can become agents of change. But this requires vigilance, courage, and a deep sense of responsibility. How can people act in the midst of so much lack of control? Saint Michael gives us some clues. He talks about resisting deception, cultivating the truth, and protecting what is sacred. This means looking beyond the obvious, questioning easy narratives, and seeking what is eternal. He reminds us that while lack of control seems to dominate, we still have the power to choose. The conflict is spreading. It has already crossed physical borders and now seeks to dominate hearts and minds. The question that Saint Michael leaves us with is clear: will you be part of the problem or the solution? This choice cannot be postponed. Time is short, and the repercussions of our actions, or lack thereof, are greater than we can imagine. In the midst of this alarming tone, there is something that cannot be ignored in the words of Saint Michael the Archangel, the promise of hope. No matter how dark the scenario seems, he reminds us that the light has not been extinguished. The chaos may be spreading, but it is not the end. It is a call, and that call comes with a clear message. There is still time to change course. There is still a chance for those who choose to listen. This hope is not an invitation to passivity. On the contrary, it is a challenge. Saint Michael emphasizes that the light will prevail, but only through those who are willing to act. The sky is not silent, he says. This means that the divine continues to be present, guiding, warning, and offering ways to resist the forces that try to destroy us inside and out. Think about what this means for the world today. Lack of control may seem absolute, but humanity still has a choice. In every act of kindness, with every decision to resist hatred, with every effort to seek the truth, the light finds room to grow. Saint Michael reminds us that no matter how small each individual's choice may seem, it is powerful. Which is why he says the true battle begins in the heart of each one. But how to find hope in the midst of so much chaos? Saint Michael points to a clear source: faith. He talks about returning to the essential, that which is eternal. While the world tries to distract us with fleeting illusions, he invites us to look within, to seek strength in our spirituality, in our deepest values. He calls us to abandon indifference and act with purpose. This hope is also manifested in practical actions. Saint Michael does not leave us adrift. He gives us clues on how to resist. He talks about unity, about the need to overcome the divisions that weaken us. He mentions the importance of protecting what is sacred to us, our families, our communities, and our connection with the divine. These are the fortresses that can resist the advance of chaos. Another crucial point is vigilance. Saint Michael warns us that the enemy is subtle and that deception is his main weapon. This means that to maintain hope, we need to be attentive. We cannot afford to ignore the signs around us. He reminds us that even in the midst of darkness, there is always light. But we need to be willing to see it. Finally, he challenges us to have courage. Hope is not just a feeling, it is a decision. It is the choice to believe that good can still prevail, even when everything seems lost. And that choice requires strength. The light is stronger than the darkness, he says. But it is up to us to make that light shine, even in the most difficult moments. Looking at all of this, it is clear that the message of Saint Michael is not just a warning but an invitation. He calls us to be bearers of light in a world that desperately needs it. Every choice we make, no matter how small it may seem, can be a flame in the midst of darkness. Saint Michael's message is clear: the chaos that dominates the world cannot be faced passively. It calls to action, to choose a side, and above all, to recognize that each of us has a crucial role to play. But what does this mean in practice? What can you do to respond to this urgent call and prepare for what lies ahead? The first step, according to Saint Michael, is to look inside. He challenges us to confront our own mistakes, our own deviations, before trying to change the world outside. We need to purify our interior. This starts with a sincere reflection. How are you living? What are the values that truly guide your choices? What aspects of your life need to be corrected? He reminds us that the true battlefield is not just internal but the thoughts, the fears, and the temptations we face daily are part of this spiritual war. To resist, we need to be vigilant about what we feed in our minds and hearts. This means consciously choosing the truth instead of lies, love instead of hate, and unity instead of division. But it is not enough to just reflect. Saint Michael calls us to action, and this action begins at home, in our families. He talks about the importance of strengthening family ties, building an environment of love, respect, and faith in an increasingly fragmented world. Families are fortresses of light that can resist darkness. How are the relationships in your home? Are you investing time and energy to strengthen these bonds? Furthermore, he challenges us to overcome indifference. The message is clear: we cannot be spectators while evil moves forward. This means taking action in our community, helping those in need, defending the truth even when it puts us in an uncomfortable position. Saint Michael reminds us that courage is essential. We cannot fear judgment or opposition when we know we are fighting for what is right. Another point, prayer is crucial. Saint Michael invites us to return to the essential, to strengthen our connection with the divine. He teaches us that prayer is not just a ritual, but a powerful weapon. It is through prayer that we find strength, clarity, and protection. He talks about the need to pray with purpose, with genuine faith, asking for guidance to face the challenges that are coming. He also alerts us to the importance of community in times of crisis. Unity is strength. San Miguel encourages us to seek support from people who share the same values, who are also committed to living in the light. This means being close to those who can strengthen ourselves, but also be a source of support for others. Finally, Saint Miguel calls us to live with purpose. He reminds us that this is not a common moment in history. We are living in decisive times, and our choices today will have eternal repercussions. He invites us to abandon apathy, to live with intention, and to be examples of light in a world that desperately needs hope. We reach the climax of St. Michael's message, the moment when the words become clearer and the call more urgent. He delivers to us revelations that not only describe the current cause, but point to an inevitable outcome if humanity remains on the path of indifference and pride. At the same time, he presents a promise: there is still hope for those who choose to listen and act. Saint Michael speaks of a future in which conflict intensifies, reaching even deeper dimensions. He describes a scenario where lack of control grows, not only between nations, but within the human spirit. The winds of disorder will not cease as long as humanity continues to ignore the call to conversion. These words make it clear that the crisis we face is both spiritual and practical. But what does this mean for the world as we know it? Saint Michael mentions that great transformations are coming, events that will challenge our understanding. He speaks of a necessary purification, something that will be both painful and liberating. The fire of the Most High will purify what has been contaminated, and only those firm in faith will remain standing. This is not just a warning about destruction, but a preparation for a renewal that will be inevitable. Between these revelations, Saint Miguel highlights the importance of time. He warns that the days of choice are numbered. The celestial clock is in its last cycle, and you can no longer postpone your decisions. These words carry immense weight, because they make it clear that the opportunity for change will not be eternal. Every moment wasted is a lost chance to align with the light. However, there is a deeply consoling aspect to the message. Saint Michael does not just talk about destruction, but about redemption. He mentions that for those who choose to listen, the future can be one of renewal and peace. Those who persevere in truth, love, and union will see the glory of the Most High triumph over darkness. This means that even in adversity, there is a greater purpose unfolding. Another powerful revelation is related to the individual role of each of us. Saint Michael emphasizes that no one is insignificant in this battle. He reminds us that even if our actions seem small, they have an impact on the greater outcome. Each choice of light weakens the darkness, each act of faith strengthens the divine plan. This is a direct call for each person to assume their responsibility in the fight against evil. Finally, he talks about the need to remain firm, even in the face of difficulties. The darkness will try to deceive, divide, and destroy, but those who trust in the Most High will never be abandoned. This promise is a reminder that even when all seems lost, the light is at our side, guiding us. As we close his message, Saint Michael leaves us with a warning and an invitation. He says that the time of silence is over, that it is time to act and live with purpose. But he also encourages us, saying that we will never be alone. Heaven is with us, rooting for our victory, offering its help, but waiting for us to do our part. We come to the end of this profound and transformative message. Throughout the words of Saint Michael the Archangel, it was clear that this is not a common moment in history. We live in times of crucial decisions, and each choice we make has the potential to shape not only our destiny, but the fate of the world. Now, the question that remains is, What will you do with this message? Saint Michael showed us that we are at a crossroads. On one side, chaos and lack of control, the darkness that advances. On the other, the promise of light, of renewal, and a victory that is already assured for those who choose the path of truth. But this choice cannot be postponed. Time is short, he warns us, and if we ignore this call, the consequences will be inevitable. This message, however, is not just about the collective, it is deeply personal. Saint Michael does not speak only to leaders, for nations, or for the world as a whole. He speaks directly to you. He gives you an invitation and a responsibility. He asks you, are you ready to resist the darkness, to be part of the solution, to live differently, aligned with the principles heaven wants you to embrace? If the answer is yes, the path is clear. It begins with daily choices. Seeking the truth instead of surrendering to deception, choosing love instead of hate, prioritizing what is eternal instead of what is temporary. It requires courage because the world will not make this journey easier, but it also promises that with faith, you will never be alone. As you close, Saint Michael reminds us that the battle we face is not just spiritual. It is reflected in our actions in the physical world. It is time to act, protect the values that sustain life, build stronger communities, care for those who need help. There is no more room for indifference or apathy. Every act of kindness, every choice of justice, every decision of resistance against evil makes a difference. And even in the face of chaos, Saint Michael reminds us that the future is one of hope. The light always prevails, he says, but this victory depends on our participation. It is not a fight that we can break alone, but it is also not a struggle that we can ignore. Now, it's up to you. This message did not reach you by chance. If you have heard this far, it means there is something that resonated in your soul, something that called you to act. The choice is before you, and the actions you take from now on will define not only your path, but the impact you will have on the world. The journey does not end here. What you do next is what truly matters. So look within, reflect, and most importantly, act. Because the future is indeed in your hands. Be a bringer of light. The battle can be difficult, but victory is certain for those who choose the side of truth and hope. The time is now. The choice is yours.